Alright then. Let's start the screening of your crime scene. This is going to be the best part of the whole year.
With this footage, there'll be no excuse for what you've done.
I told you time and time again, I'm not having an affair. Please don't go through with this stupid nonsense.
Mum must have gotten hold of evidence you did not want her to get from the hidden camera. You're in such a damn panic right now. It's obvious.
No, I'm not getting panicked. I'm just trying to stop the impending doom.
Whatever it is, let's all take a look. I think we all need to see what my wife's been on about once and for all.
And what are you talking about, Mr. Milo? You're a penniless hooker, is what you really are. And everyone here is going to see how the mistress of STDs seduces a man. My name is Joanna, and I'm a 28-year-old office woman working for a company that sells high-quality pet goods. I married my husband, Chris, 3 years ago. After we got married, I moved in with Chris's parents.
In order to save money for our own home one day, I suggest we go stay with my parents. We'll save a lot more money that way because we won't have to pay rent.
But are you sure it's going to be as economical as you think? Your parents did tell us that if we're going to live with them, we have to pay some life costs. I'm not saying this isn't a good idea, but I just think we should consider things carefully, since this is a big investment. To recap, yes, my parents-in-laws asked that we pay some living expenses like water and electricity.
I think that's common for families, honestly. And we only have to pay for your living expenses, Joanna. And because it's my family's house, I don't have to pay.
But then I'm the only one who has to pay a lot of expenses.
I'll save whatever you have to pay for yourself from my own salary. And you've also got a decent amount of savings from your cabaret days. I'm sure we can work something out.
That's not entirely true, honey. I was only a cabaret girl when I was having trouble paying my school fees. Now I'm just an ordinary company employee. Even if I do have some money saved up, it isn't anything decent at all.
Ah, Joanna. You were so hot during those days.
Chris, don't tell me you don't still like cabarets, do you?
Perish the thought, darling. No, I'm completely devoted to you, and I don't want you to forget that.
Yes, you heard right. It's not exactly something I'm extremely proud of, personally, but before I got married, I used to work in a cabaret club. A friend from college invited me, and I worked there for a short time. Honestly, it was a good job. The pay was decent, and it was a good experience. The only reason why I'm not extremely proud of it is because of where the club is. It was in a dirtier part of downtown, and a lot of gang guys dropped in for a drink. Most times they were very nice people, funny. But every once in a while, some of these bastards get pretty drunk and tries to do some stuff to the girls. Some of these guys were pretty powerful, physically, and one particular instance made me fear for my life. But enough about that. Overall, I think it was a good experience. Now, I found a job that I want to do as a life career, which is accounting. But unfortunately, in the public mind, some people have a harsh view of women who have any experience in that line of occupation. Even if it was just for a short time. Chris's mother was someone who was especially critical of such work. She condemned it, calling it the job for the street rats, and cast a slew of insults in my direction. She also insulted all the exceptionally kind people who I'm had the pleasure of working with. While I was living with the Milos, I had a bunch of arguments with her big, nagging mouth. Joanna, that skirt is so damn short. Just what the hell are you even doing at the office? Here we go again. I desperately suppressed my frustration as I responded. It's not too short, Mrs. Milo. It's normal, as it always is when I go to work. I've asked you this before, but please stop criticizing what I'm wearing every morning before I head off. Oh, well, you can't blame me for being worried about where you're going for work. I'm always concerned you'll start working at a cabaret again. Perish the thought, Mrs. Milo. Please. I find my job at my current company very rewarding. Why would I want to go back to a cabaret? Oh, my, look at the time. I'm running late. See you this evening, Mrs. Milo. My mother-in-law is saying and doing a lot of disparaging things about me because I used to work at a cabaret has pretty much become a daily routine nowadays. Your mother's nagging is terrible, Chris. It's your fault. You told her that I used to work at a cabaret club. I asked too many times to stop with the constant nagging and pickiness. And I want you to tell her too, okay?
Don't make it sound like it's such a big deal, Joanna. More importantly, though, I'm staying with some friends starting tomorrow. We're going to see a concert.
If you have that kind of money to spend, save it instead. Have you forgotten why we decided to live with your parents in the first place?
Oh my god. What do you care about how I spend my money that I made by working my job?
I'm paying for my own living expenses because your parents, or rather, your mother, insists that I do. And yet all you ever do is spend a whole lot of money on fun and games. I felt our love for each other slowly fading, and my mother-in-law started to demand more and more money for living expenses. Joanna, dear, I'm going to buy a new refrigerator. Give me $1,000, if you would, please. $1,000 is not an easy amount to put on the table right here now, Mrs. Milo, and besides, there's nothing wrong with the refrigerator, is there? You guys are living together with us, and because of that, we have to store more stuff in the fridge. And that costs more money for electricity. I'll have to change it to a more efficient model where the electricity consumption is a lot more reasonable. And on other occasions... Mrs. Milo, have you seen my bag? You know, the red one with the black shoulder strap? Oh, yeah, that fancy branded handbag, right? I sold it to a recycling shop. I just hated the design of that wretched thing with a burning passion. Excuse me? Why would you do that, Mrs. Milo? Lest we forget that handbag belonged to me, didn't it? You don't have the right to sell it without my permission. Look it up. It could be considered a crime, you know. Legally, it's equivalent to theft. And what made you think you have the right to talk back at me, Miss Joanna, wife of my firstborn son? I remind you, I'm trying so hard every day putting up with your cabaret-polished vulgarity. A wife should be like a wife, and thus an eco-friendly bag will definitely suffice. You don't need branded goods. Besides, that handbag brought back a handsome price for us. My mother-in-law's ill treatment of me escalated day after day after day. Chris never tried to listen to reason and always justified his mother's actions. Mr. Milo is a workaholic and couldn't give less of a good goddamn about what goes on inside the house. I strongly regretted living under the same roof as my parents-in-law. I commute to work by my own car, and sometimes, on the way home from work, I would sometimes give a ride to my boss, who lived down the street. His name is Mr. Breton, and he's 5 years older than me. He's strict about work, but as a man, he was very calm, and had a very friendly personality. I could always count on him because he was always open to helping me with any doubts I had about something in particular about my work. But then... perhaps my mother-in-law saw me giving Mr. Breton a ride back to his home because she suddenly started to unreasonably accuse me of ridiculous things. Miss Joanna, you were in the car with a guy today, weren't you? I knew it. I damn well knew you still work in a cabaret club. You really can't stop looking for guys to play with, can you? What are you talking about, Mrs. Milo? I'm not looking for guys. At all. Mr. Breton's another employee of my company, and that's all he is. I have no illicit relationship with him. What a disgusting excuse. You're a scumbag for betraying our beloved Chris. My mother-in-law was making such a fuss, and that led Chris himself to suspect me of foul play too.
Hey, what Mum's been saying, is it true, Joanna? Are you having an affair?
Of course not. You really think I would do such a thing, Chris? I was shocked that my own darling husband suspected me of having an affair.
If you're going to have an affair, I think I should do the same.
Is what he said next. And Chris was grinning a diabolical smirk that scrunched up his face into a horrifying way. I suddenly felt my heart become heavier than lead, and every positive emotion I had for Chris went stone cold right then and there. Are you serious? I ask you again, do you honestly think that I would cheat on you?
If you weren't cheating on me, you definitely wouldn't be having that stupid expression on your ugly face.
Chris, how dare you? Oh yeah, now my love for him was lost to abysmal darkness, never to be revived again. From that point onward, I refused to accept any financial requests from my mother-in-law other than the bare necessities. We need some money for the neighborhood association. $500, if you please, bitch. I'm not a member of the neighborhood association, Mrs. Milo. I'm not giving you anything. You won't freaking get away with this, you whore. Get your money and put it in my hand right now. Yeah, when did I ever say I needed your forgiveness, Mrs. Milo? I'm not giving you any money without any circumstantial assurance on how it'll be spent. Does that pea-brain of yours know your place in this house? You realize I can kick your slutty ass out of here, right? If you want to kick me out, I'll gladly leave, Mrs. Milo. I'm totally fine with that. Cheeky now, are we? So help me. I will teach you a damn lesson. I muttered to myself as I watched my mother-in-law walk away. And just what in the world are you spending all that money on, Mrs. Milo? Lately, my mother-in-law seems to be living a more lavish life. Her makeup, her clothes, her general aesthetics looked as though they were made for girls ridiculously younger than her. I started to suspect that the money my mother-in-law was demanding me was probably being used to purchase luxury items. I found out later on that the decent allowance she gets from her well-paid husband was actually the same sort of living expenses that I started paying her when I moved in with the Milos. In other words, all the money I ever give my mother-in-law is all wasted on stupid things for her own personal luxury. I discovered that she really wanted me to be there as her personal ATM. To be there to give her any amount of gold coins and bags of silver she needed to buy her expensive dresses and jewelry. As for Chris, he never dared save a single penny, and often blew much of his salary on fun. I seriously started to wonder how long my life would go on like this, and every day was 24 hours of full depression. After a while, I started to work in the afternoon on weekends. My mother-in-law's behavior suddenly made a complete 180. She took my car out early in the morning, filled it up with gas, and even had it washed. I can't believe you have to work on weekends. Have a nice day, dear. There was absolutely no way Mrs. Milo suddenly had a change of heart and started being nice to me. I immediately started to suspect she was up to something. I went to work, sent away by my mother-in-law, who looked to be in the best mood she'd been in a while. When I came home in the evening, I found my mother-in-law had gone to the hairdresser's and wasn't home. Chris passed me in the hallway, borrowed my car, and went off to gallivant in the city. I was left alone with Mr. Milo, and I prepared dinner for the two of us. I ate with him. So, Mr. Milo, how are things with your Mrs. Milo these days?
What do you mean by that?
I'm sorry. Forget it. It's not important.
All right, then. Ah, yes, Joanna, dear. Turn on the TV, will you? Nice job. Thank you.
Mr. Milo was soon completely focused on the baseball game on TV. He never paid any attention to me anymore that night. He just didn't seem to care about anything at all. Only about his peaceful life with food, water, shelter, and a large television screen. I'm sure he's a good man, but I don't think he realizes that his entire family's crumbling around him. I sighed, got the dishes, washed them, and went upstairs to my room. The next day was a day off, and I slept in that morning. Neither Chris nor my mother-in-law had come home until really late, and both of them were still sleeping too. I was able to spend the morning in peace and quiet. My mother-in-law woke up in the afternoon, and I found her in the living room, doing something on her laptop. Chris was sitting on the sofa talking somewhat quietly with his mother and grinning somewhat ominously. Why did my stomach give me the feeling that something terrible was going to happen pretty soon? Miss Joanna, do you know what this is? It looks like a video camera, Mrs. Milo. That's correct, my dear. 100 points for now. The next question's worth 500 points. What do you think this video camera recorded? I don't know, Mrs. Milo. I guess I lost this round of Jeopardy. Alright, then plug this in here. Now, look at the computer screen. Come now. Joe, my dear, and sit yourself down right here. My father-in-law, completely intrigued by what his wife just said, sat down on the couch next to Chris. My mother-in-law then announced in a loud voice, "All right then, let's start the screening of your crime scene. This is going to be the best part of the whole year." Wait, what?
With this footage, there'll be no excuse for what you've done.
I told you time and time again, I'm not having an affair. Please don't go through with this stupid nonsense.
Mum must have gotten hold of evidence you did not want her to get from the hidden camera. You're in such a damn panic right now, it's obvious.
No, I'm not getting panicked. I'm just trying to stop the impending doom.
Well, whatever it is, let's all take a look. I think we all need to see what my wife's been on about once and for all.
And what are you talking about, Mr. Milo? You're a penniless hooker, is what you really are. And everyone here is going to see how the mistress of STDs seduces a man. I literally had nothing to hide. Mrs. Milo started to play the video in a good mood. And naturally, there was nothing unusual about the footage. It was literally just a simple, plain video of me driving in my car on the parkway just outside our house.
This is you, isn't it, Joanna? You always drive safely. It's incredible.
My father-in-law told me, although his tone sounded bored. Mrs. Milo got impatient and pressed the fast-forward button and skipped ahead in the video. Oh, damn it! Where's that shameless recording of you? Here? I'm pretty sure it's on here somewhere. Eventually, my mother-in-law apparently found what she was looking for, because a grin of pure malice spread across her wrinkled face. On the rather low-quality screen appeared to be a man holding a woman in his arms, and she appeared to be stripping nude enthusiastically. My mother-in-law then begins to explain, beaming with pride. Looky here, everyone. This is who this whore really is. Oh my god. You're really into this bloke. You just can't wait to feel him where many have gone before, can you? My father-in-law, for the first time ever, raised his voice.
This is Joanna? Explain the meaning of this, woman.
How dare you betray our family? We will never forgive you. Any cheating bitch can get the frick out of our house. My eyes widened, and Chris gulped. Or perhaps he just made a strange noise, I don't know. What I do know is that he turned dangerously pale. At that moment, the man who was laying on top of the woman in the screen, thrusting vigorously, tilted his face towards the camera. He didn't seem to realize it was there, but his identity was crystal clear. It was none other than Chris himself. My own husband. Wait, what?
Chris, my boy.
And who is that woman, honey?
Mum, turn off that video. Turn it off.
Yep, you guessed it. And I hope you forgive me for going into a bit of detail earlier. The video displayed the footage of Chris making love to a woman he's cheating on me with in my own car. I felt like throwing up, and I almost did all over the laptop. It turns out that after I get home from work every night nowadays, Chris had been meeting up with this woman. My mother-in-law probably only saw a portion of the footage the hidden camera had recorded and thought she saw me in the video.
Chris, you stupid, slimy bastard.
Wait, Hang on. Chris. This woman, I recognize her. She used to work with me in the same cabaret club. That can't be Raina, can it? I took a closer look at the woman in the video, who was now sprawled out, breathless, her hair all over the place. Yep, the hair gave it all away. Give me a good 50 years, I'd still be able to recognize that hair of a legendary beauty. It was Raina, one of my closest friends who worked with me as a cabaret girl. She, too, was fairly close with Chris. But I didn't think that they had this kind of relationship. The fact that the relationship was so lewd, even after Chris got married, was just insane. Chris was cowering in silence by this point. If my eyes didn't deceive me, he was actually trembling. His mother said to him, "Oh, Chris, you do know it's all Joanna's fault, right? With such a skinny, unattractive body like that, even my own son, who's the sweetest, most faithful angel in the world, would turn his eyes towards other women. Better women." Mrs. Milo's outrageous words made me lose my patience altogether. "Prepare to be destroyed, madam." I reached into my bag and took out another video camera. "And this question is worth 1,000 points. Mrs. Milo, what do you think this video camera recorded?" My parents-in-law and their son were stunned because of my sudden actions. I unplugged my mother-in-law's camera from the computer and connected it to my own camera. And this video contains raw footage of what she did after going to the beauty parlor every week at night. And in a nutshell, I think Mr. Milo is going to enjoy watching this very much. If you guessed that I knew Mrs. Milo was also being unfaithful, well then, I applaud you. Yes, I did know she was a snake in the grass. I knew that my mother-in-law started to take drastic measures to look oddly young. I knew why she was spending so much money. And above all else, I knew exactly what she did right after she pulled into our driveway. On evenings when I thought my mother-in-law would borrow my car, I set up a video camera in secret, hidden from sight. And this was going to be the culmination of all my efforts. Extra! Extra! Limited time only. The screening of Mrs. Josephine Milo's crime scene is about to commence. This is going to be the best part of the whole year. No. Please, no. The footage showed the shocking scene of my mother-in-law holding onto a young, handsome man who looked like a male stripper, removing his clothes. Oh my god, you're so cute. You're so cute. You're so cute. It's just the tip of the iceberg of what she was yelling. I was honestly surprised she could be this dirty.
Mom? What the hell is this? Explain this to me. Both of you.
No, honey, it's not what it looks like. I made a little mistake. Mrs. Milo, I'm afraid you're the one who's getting the hell out of this house. And so my bitter life, married to a scumbag unworthy of love or respect, came to an end. After that, of course, I divorced Chris. I contacted Raina, telling her there was something I needed to talk to her about. Even though I'd stopped working as a cabaret girl, she and I were close enough to meet at least once a month, and we text each other pretty often too. We met in our usual coffee shop, and we talked it over. It turns out that Chris had told Raina that I was cheating on him too, so it was basically fine for her to be active elsewhere, so to speak. Chris told me he had proof you were having an affair. But the bastard! He lied to me, and he used me. Listen to me, Raina. Even if he did lie to you, and perhaps use you, you still gave consent to having an affair with a married man. I am sure you already know that's a pretty big deal. Huh. You're just jealous because he didn't like the fact that you got out of my line of work and got a day job. You just can't deal with the fact that cabaret girls are more attractive than women of the office by far. I'm sorry that the man you married cheated on you, but honestly, you kind of had it coming. Be glad it was me and not some other girl instead. And that terminated my friendship with her, right then and there. I decided to demand Raina a lump sum of alimony for the affair. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, had been using a dating app and was repeatedly cheating on her husband. When she was about to get money from me, in addition to the money she got from her husband, she got more and more addicted to it. Mr. Milo filed for divorce against her, and along with her son Chris, they were both kicked out of the house. Chris and my mother-in-law moved into the apartment of Raina, his lover. Why do I have to take care of this old hag? Old hag? You better watch yourself.
Look, we have nowhere to go. I'm in this mess because you and I got caught having an affair. The three of us can help each other out.
And I'm asking why the hell your ancient fossil is tagging along. Raina later found out about Chris's affair with her solely because of my mother-in-law, and her behavior towards Mrs. Milo became even harsher. It seems she's calling her ex-husband every day, crying and complaining about Raina and her psychological abuse. I still visit Mr. Milo from time to time, which is why I'm able to tell you how they're doing now. Chris now has a part-time job in addition to his day job, and is working day and night to pay off his alimony debt. And his mother was able to land a job at Raina's Cabaret Club as a janitor. My old mother-in-law, who used to severely criticize cabarets, and the girls that have experience working in them, now works in one herself, albeit not in the real business. It's still very ironic and so hilarious. As for me, I'm still working my day job after the divorce. I've overcome the difficult experience of divorce and I'm finally able to focus well on my work. And in recognition of my efforts, I was just promoted to senior manager. And I'd like to take a moment to thank my boss, Mr. Breton, for his continued support throughout this whole time. Recently, he's been asking me out to have dinner with him, privately. A part of me has honestly had enough of men in life, but a bigger, more important part of me knows very well that you can't move on if you keep dwelling on the past. Give me a little more time, and I think I'm willing to go on at least one date with him. I'm thinking about it, is all I'll say for now. And hopefully things will look up even more in due time.